Greetings, dear cultured and knowledgeable audience. Welcome to this corner of raw reality where we don't buy into alternative facts or swallow the nonsense they feed us every morning. Today, the hypocrisy of the second phase of the transformation smells like stolen diesel and high-seas nepotism. Let's get to it. It turns out that yesterday, the regime's super cop, Polkada's Bruce Wayne, Omar Garcia Jarfuch, showed up with an innocent face to give us news that, in any country with an ounce of decency, would have caused an earthquake in the cabinet. But here, in the Disneyland of the fourth transformation, it's just another day. Did they capture him in Argentina? Yes, Rear Admiral Fernando Farias Laguna, the little angel, had to run all the way there. And who is this character? Well, as we all know, none other than the brother of Vice Admiral Manuel Roberto Farias Laguna, who is currently enjoying a 5-star stay behind bars. And to keep it all in the family, both are nephews of the former Secretary of the Navy himself, Rafael Ojeda. What a lovely family. What a patriotic coincidence. While they tell you that the Navy is the people in uniform and the bulwark of sovereignty, the relatives of the High Command were busy building what seems to be the most successful fuel smuggling franchise in modern history. These little angels are part of the heist of the century, with the house stamp all over it. What Fernando Farias Laguna did is not just a minor traffic offense. The man is accused of leading the largest criminal organization for fuel smuggling in Mexico. We're talking about organized crime and money laundering. But hold on, because here comes the figure that should make those who still defend the White Handkerchief Act hang their heads in shame. The tax prosecutor, Grisel Galeano Garcia, dropped the bombshell before Congress. The amount of evasion and theft reaches 600 billion pesos. Let's do some quick math. They could have built 10 Dos Bocas refineries or at least finished them properly, because the one we have is only good for catching fire and flooding. But no, that money ended up in the accounts of a criminal network that operated with such a blatant fake import scheme that it could only have existed under the protective cloak of absolute impunity. The scheme was a masterpiece of cynicism. It wasn't your average fuel thief poking a pipe in Hidalgo. It was a white-collar operation involving military brass, the logistics of the crime, ships, shell companies, political blessings, institutional protection, front companies that had the approval of someone very high up, naval logistics, the use of ships and warehouses to move 1.5 million liters a week money laundering, the use of shell companies to launder at least 23 billion pesos. Do these sons of a thousand bitches really think we're idiots? Will they claim the Secretary of the Navy didn't know what was going on? That the customs system, the one that the Jackass from Macuspana handed over to the military to clean up corruption, didn't they realize that billions in fake fuel were coming in? Please. In the fourth transformation, government corruption isn't swept from the top down. It's arranged so that those at the top always land on their feet. While his brother Manuel Roberto was already sleeping in the Altiplano prison, Fernando thought that no one would recognize him in Patagonia, but Interpol ruined his escape. Harfuch tries to sell this to us as a spectacular bust after 7 months of investigation, but let's be honest, this isn't a bust. It's a settling of scores, or even worse, damage control in response to what the U.S. agencies already know. Because over there they really are investigating, and the names coming to light don't stop at the Navy. They go straight to the heart of the Lopez Obrador movement. Let's do a quick review of the events that led to what we're seeing today. For some strange reason, the memory of Mexicans is very short. In November 2021, the execution of Sergio Carmona Angelo, known as the King of Huachicol, triggered the first investigations into fuel trafficking networks between Texas and Tamaulipas. According to statements made by journalists Maria Hidalia Gomez and Annabel Hernandez, the murder of Carmona and his previous collaboration with the DEA led to the opening of case files that, years later, would result in legal proceedings against marine businessmen and financial operators, although officially the authorities have not made it official. It would then begin in June 2024 when Rear Admiral Fernando Ruben Guerrero Alcantar formally reported to the then head of the Navy Secretariat, Rafael Ojeda Duran, the existence of a fuel smuggling and tax fraud network led by the Farias Laguna brothers. The complaint was documented in an audio recording and a handwritten letter, and it mentioned internal pressures, bribes, and personnel movements to protect the illegal operation in the maritime customs. However, Guerrero Alcantar was executed in November 2024 in Manzanillo, Colima, under a modus operandi identical to the murder of the FGR official, Magali Yanet Navarramos, who was executed weeks earlier in the same region. On March 31, 2025, the Navy, the FGR, through the FMDO, the Secretariat of Citizen Security, the Defense Ministry, and the National Guard, carried out an operation at the port of Tampico, Tamaulipas, which resulted in the seizure of 10 million liters of smuggled diesel, the largest confiscation in Mexico's recent history. This blow allowed federal authorities to establish direct links between smuggling, the command structure in the Navy, and security businessmen. On September 7, 2025, Vice Admiral Manuel Roberto Farias Laguna, brother of Fernando, was arrested along with 13 other suspects including 3 businessmen, 6 Navy officers, 1 retired officer, and 5 customs officials. The investigation revealed the systematic use of forged documents and shell companies to bring hydrocarbons into the country, evading taxes and generating millions in profits for the criminal organization known as Los Primos. The then Attorney General Alejandro Gertz Manero linked this case to another seizure carried out in March of that year, where 8 million liters of fuel were secured in Ensenada, Baja California, showing the national scope of the operation. After the seizure in Tampico and the arrests in September, the international search for Fernando Farias Laguna intensified. He had left Mexico in August 2024, bound for Florida in the United States, and his return was never recorded. In September 2025, he obtained an injunction that prevented his arrest, but on October 2nd, the measure was revoked and an arrest warrant was issued against him. By then, Interpol's Red Notice already enabled authorities to search for him in 192 countries. On April 1, 2026, Farias Laguna entered Argentina from Colombia using a fake Guatemalan passport under the name Luis Lemus Ramos. Farias Laguna stayed in a luxurious Airbnb in the Palermo neighborhood, just 3 kilometers from the Mexican embassy in Argentina. He was located and arrested this Thursday, April 23, on a public street at the intersection of Guatemala and Juan B. Justo streets by the Argentine Federal Police, under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of National Security and in coordination with the General Directorate of International Cooperation, Interpol, the Secretariat of the Navy, Mexico's Attorney General's Office, the Secretariat of Citizen Security, and Interpol Mexico. The Minister of National Security, Alejandra Monteoliva, confirmed the detention and the international cooperation that led to the arrest for extradition purposes. In her statements, Monteoliva emphasized, Argentina is not a refuge for criminals. Whoever commits a crime will pay for it. By the way, it was a direct message to Claudia Sheinbaum from Javier Millei's government. We are facing the legacy of family corruption. Let's not fool ourselves anymore. This fuel theft network, this betrayal of the nation from within the Navy, is not an isolated incident or the result of a few bad apples. Everything we're seeing, this systematic looting of the national treasury, is the direct responsibility of the corruption of the government of the piss-pants old man López Obrador. It was him who, with his rhetoric of "we are not the same," allowed his closest collaborators, and above all his sons, to shamelessly benefit from power. They opened the doors of the country to their buddies and relatives so they could do business under the protection of the flag, while the people received their crumbs in the form of scholarships. The structure of political protection for these mafias comes from the highest office in the National Palace. They kept saying that there was no more corruption, when in reality what they did was nationalize it and hand over the keys to the Tabasco clique. So now you know, the next time you hear about energy sovereignty, remember that for the 4th transformation, that just means stolen fuel should be managed by their family and close friends. What do you think? I'll read your comments. See you Monday. Stay informed and keep questioning since there are already paid shills doing the applauding. Have an excellent weekend. Remember that you can make your donations via PayPal. You can find the information in the comment box. Thanks to you, this channel stays active. It's very important to subscribe, like, and press the bell to receive notifications every time there's new content. Thank you.